We love a high-functioning smart home, but some setups eventually become more trouble than they're worth. Here are 10 home assistants you should avoid at all costs, since without them, we can keep our smart living spaces sophisticated and stress-free. 1. The underpowered hardware trap. We often see beginners fall into the trap of starting their journey on hardware that simply isn't sized for the long term. While we think a Raspberry Pi is a fantastic device for a small initial test with a few sensors, it has very real performance limits that can be easily pushed. We've noticed that after a couple of years, a system can grow from a handful of devices to hundreds of automations, video recordings, and intensive background tasks. When we ask too much of underpowered hardware, the entire experience becomes slow, sluggish, and unreliable. In our view, it is a massive waste of our time to build a complex system on a foundation that will eventually crumble. We believe that investing in a properly sized server from the start saves us hours of frustration and keeps our tech-induced headaches to an absolute minimum. To keep things running smoothly, we must ensure our hardware is actually up to the tasks we are asking of it. 2. The integration hoarder. One mistake we've definitely been guilty of is failing to remove old or unused integrations from our system. We found that leaving these ghost integrations can cause significant issues, particularly during our system startup times. This happens because the software tries to communicate with devices that are no longer there, repeating this process for several minutes until it finally times out. We find it incredibly frustrating to wait for a system to boot up when the delay is entirely self-inflicted by a cluttered configuration. By checking our logs and startup times, we can easily identify which components are struggling and get them removed to speed everything up. We believe that keeping a clean, lean installation is the only way to ensure our homes work for us, rather than the other way around. 3. The no safety net setup. We're still shocked by how many people either don't take backups frequently, or simply don't take them at all. We often think that nothing bad will happen to us, but trust us, it definitely does. A setup without a frequent backup strategy is a disaster waiting to happen, whether it's caused by a hardware failure or a corrupted update. Backups are essential for us to be able to restore our homes to a point in time when everything was working properly. We feel there is no excuse for this risk because it is so easy to automate the process using tools like Google Drive or cloud services. Setting up an automated backup takes very little time, but can massively save our bacon in a pinch. For us, a truly reliable home theater or smart ecosystem must have a safety net that we never have to worry about. 4. The blind updater. In our community, we notice a recurring problem where users hit the update button without reading the release notes. Because this is an open source project that is constantly evolving, the way things are implemented often changes to improve security or add features. These breaking changes are listed well in advance, but if we don't read them, our entire setup might suddenly stop working. We saw this recently with reverse proxies, where a simple config change was required, yet many complained that the update broke their home. We believe that taking 5 minutes to check the breaking changes before updating saves us a massive amount of unnecessary maintenance. Since we're running our entire homes on this software, we should save ourselves the headache by simply staying informed. 5. The custom integration gamble. We run many custom components ourselves, and they can be truly amazing. But we believe it's a mistake not to understand the difference between official and community-made versions. When a system update happens, it's common for a community integration to stop working. We see people blaming the core developers when, in reality, they need to contact the specific community maintainers. We aren't saying you shouldn't use them, but we feel it's vital to be aware of who is responsible for each part of our system. This distinction helps us know exactly where to go for a bug report, so we can get things back on track quickly. We believe that a refined smart home requires us to be deliberate about what we install and who we trust to maintain it. 6. The nameless chaos. When we first start, we might not give much thought to how we name our devices, using simple terms like Light 1. However, we have found that once we gather more and more devices, a lack of a naming scheme makes things confusing very quickly. Suddenly, we don't know if living room light is the main fixture or the lamp in the corner. This applies to everything from automations to scripts and entities. In our experience, changing these names later is a nightmare because we have to update every reference in our scripts and automations. We believe that getting a solid naming foundation down right at the gate is the only way to keep our system from becoming an unmanageable mess. It's about building a foundation that stays functional as our home grows. 7. The Rube Goldberg automation. We often find ourselves and others trying to overcomplicate our automations just because the software is so powerful. We get tricked into thinking everything needs to be a long, complicated script with dozens of triggers and conditions. In our opinion, it often pays to take a step back and look for a simpler way to achieve the same result. Even the lead developers admit to being guilty of this over-engineering. We believe that things don't always need to be complex to be effective. Keeping things simple makes our system easier to troubleshoot and more reliable in our daily lives. If an automation doesn't simplify our routine, then it isn't doing its job as a piece of sophisticated technology. 8. The open front door. In our view, there is really no excuse not to have two-factor authentication enabled. It can be done in a matter of seconds and provides a massive improvement in security, especially if our system is accessible from outside the house. We've noticed that once it's set up, we won't even notice it's there because the system keeps us signed in. Even if we only access our system via a VPN, we still believe it's worth turning on, given how little time it takes. We believe that securing our home is the foundation of a premium experience. We shouldn't have to worry about the security of our private data when it's so easy to fix. 9. The procrastinator's build. Some might disagree, but we feel that leaving too long between updates is a mistake. While we think the platform is more stable now, waiting 6 or 8 months to update actually increases the risk. This is because we end up having to read through months of breaking changes all at once, and the likelihood of missing something is quite high. We believe a better strategy is to update every month or two, perhaps waiting a few days after release to ensure any initial bugs are squashed. For most of us, this is a much safer path that keeps our systems modern and secure. Plus, if we have our backups ready, we can always roll back if something does go wrong. 10. The silent failure. Finally, we believe it's a mistake to never check our logs until something actually breaks. Occasionally, taking a peek in there can provide information about integrations that aren't working properly, or scripts that are slowing things down. We can find these logs under the configuration menu, or the supervisor system if we are using the OS version. It's worth having a quick look from time to time just to make sure everything is running perfectly. These logs are also incredibly useful if we ever need to ask for help in the community forums. For our team, reliability is built on being proactive rather than waiting for a total system failure. For a peaceful and truly high-value smart home, avoid these at all costs. Opt for more reliable options.